And with a deeper analysis on ISIS and its increasing power in Iraq, we're joined by Thomas Lynch. He's a distinguished research fellow at the Institute of National Strategic Studies. That's the National Defense University here in Washington, D.C. Thanks for joining us. I want to ask for your opinion about the growth of ISIS and how it's been able to move so quickly.
Thanks for having about the products of my research in this militant groups in the Levant as well as in Iraq. And I speak for myself and my research, not for the U.S. government or my employer at National Defense University. Yeah, the ISIS phenomenon, which some have called ISIL, or of the Iraq and the Levant, since there's actually a split and a schism between this group and groups that profess to be Islamic fighting in Syria against Bashar al-Assad. This group actually evolved nearly a decade ago after the collapse of what was called at that time al-Qaeda in Iraq. And it kind of went underground, and it really struggled to survive a pretty bad quarters with aims with al-Qaeda International. Al-Man Zawahiri expressed an interest in that group not fighting in Syria, and it said, no, we wish to continue to pursue there. So they evolved forward. And if I could just add, what we know about the group is that it's evolved and includes a lot of foreign fighters. Indeed, foreign fighters that in many cases are unwelcome in Syria and have worn out their welcome with their extremism, and therefore have kind of crossed the border back and forth into Iraq and Syria. And have focused a lot of time since early this last year in trying to topple different places and locations within Iraq.
But are you surprised that it's been able to move through Iraq as quickly as it has?
Yeah, and this is important. I mean, it is surprising to the extent that it's advanced. And there are two dimensions to this. First, it's not new that it exists in Iraq. Indeed, we go back to January of this year, and you see elements of this group had Al-Anbar province in Iraq, and indeed Fallujah. They were the group that were seen as assaulting in Fallujah and making some progress there. Now, the Sunni tribes of Al-Anbar quickly tired of the very, very extreme form of Sharia law these guys brought with them, not dissimilar to what happened to al-Qaeda of Iraq under Musab al-Zarqawi back in the 2000s, and they were kind of driven to ground. But here they are trying again and having more success, even though the group is probably not much larger than we thought it was back in January of 2014. That is roughly in the area of maybe 5,000 to 7,000, some say 10,000 fighters. So what's happened now? Well, there's a third level of this, and this is the second dimension I want to get to. And we talk a lot about the Sunnis and the Shia in Iraq, but there's also the Kurds. Okay, we have to pay attention here to what's been going on that I and my colleagues track between the Kurds and the Maliki government in Baghdad. There have been a lot of things that your listeners and viewers would have seen about the Kurds attempting to get more autonomy to export their oil, going around the limitations of the Maliki government. Indeed, Kurds really wanting to see the Maliki government fall in the elections of late last year. Well, the Maliki government didn't fall, but it didn't win all that great a mandate. And there's some people out there who argue that really it's the Kurds right now who are not really encouraging ISIS, but they're kind of sitting the bench right now and saying, you see, this Maliki government is really quite a travesty. It needs to do better for everybody, for Sunnis in this country, for us Kurds, and we need to sit and see how the Kurds are going to respond here in the next couple of days. Because the units in Mosul that collapsed and fell away, many of the officers, senior officers in those units, had background in the Peshmerga, which is the Kurdish forces. And indeed, we have reports that senior officers actually left on helicopter and sought refuge in the Kurdish areas of Iraq. So there's this third dimension in here, and the Peshmerga are not an insignificant force, and they number tens of thousands. The ISIS only numbers less than 10,000. So we need to wait and see how well they get engaged, as well as the Turks, as well as the Shia forces that are still also in Iraq.
All right, constantly evolving. Thomas Lynch, thank you again for your insight.
Great, thank you.